Hi everyone, Arnold here, santamuertemagic.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. The topic of today's video is going to be broken promises to Santa Muerte. Um, One type of question that I get asked a lot is what kind of fallout or consequences can people expect if they fail to keep a promise to Santa Muerte? And also, what can be done in order to recover from a broken promise? The first thing I'll say is that if ever I was going to break a promise to Santa Muerte or be unable to keep a promise, I would not be afraid of incurring her wrath or her vengeance, but I would be afraid of eventually simply being overlooked or ignored by the Santa Muerte when she goes to distribute her blessings. I've said in the past that I think the Santa Muerte, as death itself, is simply too powerful to have to engage in such petty human behavior as revenge or holding a grudge. Um, but I've also made the comparison between Santa Muerte and a loving grandmother figure. And I think most of us, if we were to break a promise to our grandmother, we wouldn't expect our grandmother to come after us and attack us, or take back what she's given us, or disown us. But we may not be surprised if she turned her attention to her other grandchildren, to those who acknowledged her, those who kept their promises, and those who showed that they appreciated her. So this is why I don't fear being attacked by Santa Muerte over something like a broken promise. And the reason I keep my promises to Santa Muerte is, is simply so that she does not ignore me until she comes for me. Um, and as far as promises not being kept, I think there are two instances where promises won't be kept. The first is when circumstances are out of your control, and the second is when you make a promise that you know you can't keep. As far as circumstances being out of your control, I don't think the Santa Muerte is keeping score or would count that as a strike against you if you are unable to keep a promise because something happens in your life that prevents you from doing it. If ever there was an energy that understood that unforeseen circumstances can happen, I think that energy is death. If ever there was an energy that understood that life happens, I think that energy would be death itself. Death often comes out of the blue as a surprise, upending plans, and this is why I don't think that death would be surprised if unforeseen circumstances kept us from keeping a promise. As far as promises being made that you know you can't keep, um, especially if this becomes a pattern of behavior, I go back to what I originally said in my comparison to the grandmother figure. If you break enough promises, if you continuously make promises that you know you can't keep, eventually I think the Santa Muerte will simply shine her blessings elsewhere where they can be appreciated. Keeping promises in any relationship, including a relationship with Santa Muerte, is a sign that you acknowledge her, that you appreciate her, and that you appreciate what she has to give you. And like I said, when it becomes a pattern of behavior, that would be um, I would not be surprised if those blessings were shined elsewhere. As far as coming back from a broken promise, um, if it is due to unforeseen circumstances, if something happens that is simply out of your control that prevents you from keeping a promise, I think that you should continue to try to make good on the promise until the situation is better. So, for example, if you make a promise to buy something special for your altar, and when it comes time to make good on your promise, your bank account is empty, I don't think the Santa Muerte would be angry, but there's nothing that prevents you from simply continuing to try to make the purchase that you promised. If you promise to visit someplace holy to Santa Muerte, like an altar, a public altar, and when time comes to make good on your promise, you don't have the money to travel to the altar, or you're simply too far away from the altar um, to visit, then that doesn't mean that you can't postpone the trip for another week or two until circumstances are better and you're able to travel. Just because you can't deliver a promise exactly when you say, it doesn't mean that you cannot continue to show your intent to fulfill the promise. Now, if something happens that completely prevents you from um, from fulfilling a promise, perhaps you promise to do something for someone else in the name of Santa Muerte, or to do something for Santa Muerte with another person, and for whatever reason that person is all of a sudden out of your life, you may find yourself in a circumstance where you can't deliver what you promised. Um, in which case, I would recommend that you um, you display your willingness and desire to continue your relationship with Santa Muerte by making smaller promises that you can keep, and keeping those promises over a period of time. And I think this goes really for any time that you're unable to keep a promise. If if you happen to bite off more than you can chew, um, if you sometimes promise things that are too much for you to deliver on. Some people, that's a bad habit with some people. They overpromise and underdeliver. It doesn't mean they're bad people, doesn't mean they intend to hurt people, but often the result is unkept promises. If you realize that you're one of these people, then what I would recommend um, is simply building a foundation of kept promises. So make smaller promises. Instead of promising to buy something for your altar that's in the range of $1,000, you could pull back a bit and maybe promise to buy something for $10 or $100. Um, Instead of promising to recite the rosary every day, um, the Santa Muerte rosary every day, you could promise to recite the rosary, the entire rosary in pieces over a week, um, or once a week on whatever day you choose. Um, Even something as simple as acknowledging your Santa Muerte altar on a daily basis by giving a kiss to your hand and touching your altar. Just simply promising to do that on a daily basis is a simple gesture, a small gesture that is easy to keep, that would show the Santa Muerte that you are serious about keeping your promises, that you realize you may have made a mistake by overpromising, um, or making good in a situation where you're simply unable to keep the promise that you made for whatever reason. Um, Overall, that's ultimately the point I wanted to make. Is that broken promises are nothing that you should be afraid of. Like I said, if there's any energy that understands that life happens, it is death. So don't be afraid if unforeseen circumstances prevent you from keeping a promise or delay your ability to keep a promise. Do what you can. If you can't make good on what you promised, then start to rebuild on a foundation of kept promises, small promises that you can keep over time. This will keep your relationship strong, continue to show the Santa Muerte that you desire a relationship and that you are serious about acknowledging her with kept promises. Hopefully I've explained everything clearly, but if you have any questions, as always, you can reach out to me on my website. There's also the Patreon messenger system and the Discord chat server. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, See you later. Bye.